Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Denver, Colorado, it's time for Franchise Bible Coach Radio. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Franchise Bible Coach Radio with Rick and Rob. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and I'm going to introduce my co-host, Rick Grossman, author of the Franchise Bible, in just a minute. But today we have a very special guest, Geoff Batchelder. He is the manager of franchise development at Flying Locksmiths. So we're going to talk to Geoff about the times we're in and how they're approaching the COVID-19 situation, and just about the brand and how they're doing business and serving clients. I also want to thank our sponsors, SEO Samba. They're the creator of a one-of-a-kind award-winning software platform built for franchises called the Franchise Marketing Operating System. I also want to thank the Franchise Bible Coach and the Fight for Your Franchise initiative. It's a free coaching session you can learn more about at franchisebiblecoach.com. And so go ahead and check that out. But with that said, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Rick Grossman. How you doing, Rick?
Very good. Thanks, Rob. Good to see you. And Geoff, welcome to the show. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet both of you.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, as Rob was saying, folks, you can still join the Fight for Your Franchise Challenge. It's at franchisebiblecoach.com. And some people ask me, hey, Rick, we're coming to the end of this initiative. We're shooting for 4th of July as being kind of our Independence Day from this pandemic. Now, I know it won't be over yet, but I think it'll be a good time for everybody to dust off the barbecues and get outside and really celebrate the fact that we are kind of moving through this as an industry, as franchise owners, as franchisors, as vendors and suppliers. We're working through this pandemic, and we're looking to the future. And that's really what we intended to do with this initiative, was to create a free initiative where people can come and learn from not only our coaches, but from other industry professionals and experts that are out there doing it every day. And Geoff and his team and the franchise owners, of course, are out there doing it every day. So today we're going to learn some gold nuggets of information from Geoff and discuss those things so that you can learn how to improve your businesses out there. So Geoff, let's start by once again welcoming you to the show. And if you could tell us a little bit about how your brand came to be and how you became part of it, and how things have been going since you got into the business.
Sure. Yeah. Flying Locksmiths has been around for over 50 years. It's a third-generation family business, and started with the grandpa in the 40s as he came back from World War II and was looking for a job, and got a World War II surplus Jeep, and was doing kind of what we think of traditional locksmith services out of the back of the Jeep. And that's where the name came about. He had a passion for flying. People think we're flying in somewhere, and sure, we can let them think that, but the name came about from that third generation ago. As you might guess, the business and industry has changed quite a bit. It's still called locksmithing, but going out and getting people out of their locked cars or locked houses has very little to do with what we actually do today. Access control has really become the primary product types and services that we provide today, and certainly on the website we show a lot of that. We kind of like to say, hey, if it's on the door, we deal with it. So you're thinking hinges and door openers and closers and strike plates and intercom systems and camera systems and safes, of course, and of course we can make keys, but that's not the primary business. So as that business evolved and went into the next generation, and now even the third generation of the family, and really morphed from that kind of what you'd think old school kind of locksmith business into more of this B2B focused access control and locksmithing business, what was happening is a lot of the large companies Flying Locksmiths was working with in the Boston market started saying, hey, we really like what you're doing here, your customer service, your responsibleness, what you've done, and we'd like to use you in other cities. And so they started looking at things like, hey, do we start acquiring other locksmiths in other cities and bringing them in? Do we subcontract? And those things, they did try those things. And what they really found that they couldn't have the same quality control, they couldn't have the same systems and integration and everything by heading down those other paths. And actually, I reached out to my partner in the franchise development, Dennis Mulgannon, who's been in the franchise development game for quite a long time as well, and said, "Hey, we think we might want to look at franchising." And gosh, started talking to Dennis and then myself we must have talked for a year and a half before the decision came about. Yeah, this makes sense. We'll go ahead and launch this. So we started talking with the McManaman family, still the owners of the business today, probably a year and a half, and then launched a franchise a little over 4 years ago. And of course, that's grown quite a bit. We talked earlier that we have 90 franchise owners, about 244 territories sold, but we still have a lot of available territory across the country, and now we're looking to expand into Canada, and then we'll see where we go from there. So it's been quite an interesting evolution over time. We just were named number 2 on Entrepreneur Magazine's top new franchises list, which is, as far as I understand, new is anything less than 5 years old. So that was quite an achievement. We were pretty impressed and a little surprised. The list came out and we went number 2. Wow.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's been quite an interesting ride so far.
Well, congratulations. That is a great honor to achieve, especially in 4 years. That's a lot of growth, and good job there.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't see that kind of growth every day, do we, Rob?
No. I was just listening to you share that, Geoff, and that's pretty impressive. And you're a pretty humble guy. The listeners might not know, but you started from ground zero and getting to almost 100 units or 100 franchisees and many more units than that is no easy task in 3 to 5 years. I mean, that is a superstar. And well, I guess that's why you're number 2. I don't know who's number 1. Why aren't you number 1?
Good question. I'd have to look at that. I think I just scanned right past number 1 and saw Flying Locksmiths. And to be clear, I should be humble. The growth and everything has very little to do with me and has to do with the team at headquarters, the support team, the sales and marketing people, the franchisor support group. I have very little to do with it. And the franchise owners, of course, and how successful they've been.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So as you think about that now, we're in unprecedented times, right? We've heard that saying a lot the last few months. We're in a different world. Rick and I certainly believe franchising probably couldn't be in a better place for some reasons, even though that would be the silver lining, is that we're seeing a lot of franchisors and networks that are just glad to be in a network today, right? Glad to be part of something bigger than just themselves. So we know that is a good test for the industry that we're all going through right now. But with that being said, what is from your side, what's been going on with franchising with this sort of new normal of COVID-19?
Yeah, it's definitely thrown a few curveballs out there, and you really hit on an interesting point. The franchise system, whether it's Flying Locksmiths or any other, really affords a chance to test and try and bounce ideas around and pool resources to come up with ideas to deal with this changing environment, which would make it very difficult for an individual business owner to do. In our case, thankfully, security services have been deemed essential, even in the most restrictive of areas, so none of our franchisees closed down. Some saw a drop-off in business, no doubt about it. Others, surprisingly not, saw very little drop-off in business. I think some of that had to do with the owners and how quickly they were able to pivot to some of the new programs versus some of the other owners maybe couldn't pivot as quickly, and so they saw a little more drop-off. But there's certainly a lot of new programs and services that have come out as a result of this. I'd be happy to talk about some of those things if you'd like me to. But in general, we saw a little bit of slowdown in some franchises, others maybe a little more slowdown, but fortunately now it seems like we're coming out of it on the other end.
Yeah. Well, I did notice that you launched some new services. How has that affected some of your approach to delivering the services or even creating new types of services? Maybe share a little bit.
Yeah, and again, this is something because there's that great group. We've got 53 people at headquarters that are involved in franchise support in one way or another. That again, if you were an individual security company, it'd be very hard to pull this off. But new products have come out on the market. from the most high tech you could imagine, think, Hollywood movies, face scanner types of systems that someone can walk up to. It'll look at them. First, they wave their hand over it to get biometric access, no more touching, to clear them. Okay, you belong here. It looks at their face to see if they've got a mask on. If they don't, you're rejected. It'll even do a scan of their temperature and look for, hey, you've got a high temperature. And if you pass all three of those, functions, it's also taking a picture of you. It'll open up, the gate or the door or whatever it might be. Now, that's maybe something, think, airport or somewhere like that, or, that's not going to be a solution for everybody, but very cool technology. And I don't think those things are necessarily going to go away as COVID-19 goes away. I think we're figuring out pandemics and these kind of things are going to be a problem. So we're going to have to deal with them. So there's also decidedly lower tech types of solutions out there, anything from a simple, wave to open it, where everyone's very familiar with the push button openers and closers, right? So again, getting away from touching, now we wave and that opens. And you can go to even lower tech type of solution. Instead of a door handle that you have to, grab and open, a simple foot pull. Reach up with your foot and pull the door open, or elbow pull. So those obviously don't cost as much money, but they are getting us away from, having every single person that touches that door grab the door handle. And then we can even move on to things like antimicrobial coatings. Who knew? There are actually products and handles and things coming out with high content of copper, which is actually has antimicrobial properties, to even sprays, long-lasting sprays that we quickly rolled out programs for our franchise owners that they could go out and offer this service when they come out to a property and say, hey, we can coat these things for you, and it's long-lasting. It's not something that lasts a day or anything like that, but antimicrobial coatings. And, even this, we just came out, and this started last week with marketing and training, a board-up service for businesses that are either out of business temporarily or permanently. They need to get it boarded up. But you can imagine, why would you call your locksmith for that? Well, we're also securing the doors and everything else as a part of that. We're out there. Maybe we're installing an alarm system or remote cameras. We might as well board it up too. Why make them call multiple parties? We have the tools, we have the doors, we have the vans, simple add-on service that we can do. And the really exciting thing that's happened with the support team, not only just going, hey, these are ideas and throwing out an email, but actually setting up suppliers, working with our advertising and marketing firm, which happens to be Hearst Media. I'll give them a shout out. They do a great job for us, to come out with, print and website stuff and social media stuff to support all these, and then training as well. So it's gone far beyond just, oh, here's some ideas for you guys to go make money with. There's, full programs being rolled out. And these things, they're going to provide a near-term bang, but I think a lot of these programs are going to be around to stay.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of innovations from the franchise owners as well as the franchisors, and we've seen a lot of programs that will be temporary and a lot that will stay around after the new normal is in effect, right? So sounds like some of those you'll hang on to.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. You can imagine the touchless stuff is going to be in place for a long time. Maybe the board up service, not so much, but hopefully. Yeah. But a lot of other technology stuff to get us away from, germs and things like that are probably going to be around.
Yeah, well, and good for your service. The common thread that we keep hearing from all types of franchisors and franchise owners is that the customer needs to feel safe and they need to trust you. Yeah. And your service provides a lot of those security elements that will make people feel safe and trust those businesses again. So good place, good time to be in the locksmith and security business. Yeah,
you don't want to make light of anything, but we got to look for a silver lining once in a while. And I think these things, we can really do some things to help. And even though we don't do a ton of residential service today, I think we're going to see some of these products, move into the residential market as well, touchless door handles and waved open and things like that. So we'll probably see a little more expanded footprint in the residential space.
Yeah, well, that'd be good too. Well, and you guys provide an essential service that people need, so that's a value. So I mentioned the franchise owners. Do you have any franchise owner stories or innovations or anything that you see coming from the field that is a good story?
And I'm probably not the best person to ask that question. I should have probably reached out to some of the franchisees and said, "Hey, tell me a story there." It's been interesting. We have a very active franchise advisory board that works, and so I mentioned the new residential programs, targeting some of these. That really, I think, was driven mostly from our franchisee advisory board saying, "Hey, we see real opportunity here." But again, we want to have a full program around it. We don't just want to, say, "Hey, franchisees, why don't you go out and do this?" So, we need marketing around it. We need products and suppliers. Of course, we want to get discounts on everything. We need to get everything, all those products and services implemented into our customer system and have, the advertising materials. So we do see a lot of those things that we're innovating right now coming out of that franchisee advisory committee. And that's been a really strong thing for us, to move the franchise system forward.
Well, and as you said earlier, with the silver linings, Rick and I talk a lot about the situation and moving forward. And our belief is that the franchise industry, the idea of owning a business, being in business for yourself, but being part of a bigger brand and having that support, we find that we believe that'll be in demand, right? A lot of folks are moving from one thing to the next, and they're saying, well, maybe I shouldn't go back to the corporate world, or maybe I shouldn't go back to whatever it was that they left or were displaced from. So we think there'll be an uptick, but how do you guys see this affecting your approach to franchise development, and what does that look for you over the next 12 months, do you think?
Well, what I've noticed, and I'll backtrack just a little bit, when COVID-19 really became prevalent and we were starting to lock down counties, I looked back in early March and thought, oh my goodness, Q2 is going to be a disaster, right? No one's going to sell a franchise, not just Flying Locksmiths or anybody else. But what I found was that wasn't necessarily true. We've been fairly busy, and we're getting busier over the last several weeks in terms of franchise inquiries and people wanting to join the system. And so what I'm kind of putting that on is people are taking a long-term view of things. It's easy to go short-term view. Oh my goodness, everything's a disaster right now. So I'm going to get locked down, and people do fall into that trap sometimes. We all of us that have been in franchise development have seen that. But you do wind up with other people taking more of a long-term view and going, okay, well, this is the reality today, but I'm getting in business for the next 10 or 20 years. We're going to see some challenges. The stock market's going to go up and down 3 times in 20 years. We already know that. So you do wind up with, okay, maybe people that are just dipping their toe in the water, they're not really serious about owning their own business. Yeah, they're kind of in lockdown mode. But other people that are thinking long-term of, hey, I'm thinking about career 2.0. I've been in the same industry 10, 15, or 20 years. Thought I was going to retire in my 50s, and now I can't retire in my 50s. So what am I going to do the next 10 or 15 years? I don't want to keep doing the same thing. They're looking at franchising as this is going to be my way to, do that next thing that's really something I want to enjoy, maybe have a family business, maybe pass something along. But at least I'm going to enjoy it and do something different until I'm ready to retire. So that was kind of a long-winded answer to that question.
Well, that's a beautiful one, though. It's what we all want to hear. And I think that you're right. It's a long view. We all have to continue to move forward in life, right? We got to help each other and keep the business going, the economy going. So that's good to hear.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and like Rob said earlier, Geoff, we predict that things are going to kind of come out of this new normal, and there's going to be a lot of folks that are going to be looking for that own their own business as an alternative to finding that job, because who knows what the job market's going to look like. There's going to be a change. And, when we started the Fight for Your Franchise Challenge, we wanted to just figure out a way to give back to the industry that we love. So as Rob mentioned, folks, if you sign up for the Fight for Your Franchise Challenge, even though we're kind of at the last few weeks here, we have archived all of the past sessions. So every week in your inbox of your email, you'll receive an email from us that'll have a coaching session that we record with Entrepreneur Magazine every week. There will be a link to the article of the week, which will be around the same subject but a little bit different angle. And then, of course, our podcast, like we're doing now. And then we also invite everybody to participate with our Facebook page, our community there, where they can ask questions and get support and ideas, and just let everybody know that we're in this together and we're going to get through it together. So definitely check that out. But as we get close to the end of the show here, Geoff, we always ask the executives to kind of dig down and see if there's a gold nugget piece of advice. If you were to talk to the listeners, and remember the listeners are franchisors, franchise owners, and people thinking about being franchisors and franchise owners, possibly even entrepreneurs that aren't in the industry, specifically franchise industry, what would you tell them as a piece of advice, as something to hang on to or something to focus on as they kind of move through this time?
Whether you're an independent business person that's thinking about, going the Flying Locksmiths route, think the long game, right? Becoming a franchisor is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You're not going to immediately, have this kind of success. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of hard effort, but can pay off greatly if done correctly, and you have that kind of long game mentality. And you've got to remember, the most important thing once you become a franchisor is your franchisees. It's no longer your business, right? Mm-hmm. And I've worked with some companies that have become franchises that the owners didn't really make that transition. Fortunately, the folks at Flying Locksmiths have been incredible with their franchisee support. So think that term if you're that business owner wanting to get into the franchise industry and become a franchisor, and if you're thinking, hey, I might want to be a franchisee, same thing. You got to have that long term. You're starting to build something that's really going to be worth something over time. So many times people are thinking, hey, I got to replace my income tomorrow from a job market. It's really hard to do if you're starting any business to think in terms of replacing my income tomorrow. But if you have that long-term vision in place and be thinking, hey, I want to get to where I'm building something that's going to be there, a legacy, or just something that I can do the next 15 years that I'm going to enjoy, have that long-term goal in mind. Really, work with a franchise coach, think about what's a good match for you. Flying Locksmiths isn't the right business for everybody, but there probably is the right franchise for you out there, and work with a coach and figure out what that might be.
Yeah. Good.
Well, that's great advice. The long game. That's great advice at this time when people are kind of focused a lot of the times on what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day. So definitely making those long-term plans are a critical solution there. So, Rob, anything else from your side of the desk?
I just enjoy these interviews thoroughly because everybody we talk to has a completely different angle, different industry, different part of the country. We're essential. We're not. We couldn't believe we were essential, right? Like we had one of them tell us that. No, that sounds good. I'm glad to hear that things are moving forward for you guys, Geoff. And I would just, the last thing I always think about, and this is from Entrepreneur Magazine, it's from their editor-in-chief, shared this, and I'll probably say it the rest of my life, but you were, before the COVID outbreak, you had a lot of value to offer your audience, your customers, your community. You still have that same value. It's just the way you deliver it, the way you approach it might change, but you're still who you are as a brand, and you still care about your customers and community, and no better way to do it than through a franchise network. And so, but that left heavy on my heart because so many people were Well, Rick, I mean, the reason why you came up with Fight for Your Franchise was don't give up. And many people needed to hear that early in the early stages. I think most of us feel a little better now. A little better. Maybe not in the last week, but
it depends.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And that's sometimes all it takes is just another, putting your feet on the ground and going out there and fighting another day. So that's really what it's all about. And I always say, if you want to get something done, corner an entrepreneur or two and see how they come out of it, fighting and getting through it and innovating and making things happen. So we've seen just in the last couple of months, amazing things, and look forward to more and more exciting things. So Geoff, any final words? And also tell us where people can go to learn more about your franchise.
www.flyinglocksmiths.com. There's a franchise section on the website. No big surprise, but quite a bit of overview information there, and you can always just submit, your contact information, and then I will be reaching out to you personally to talk more and answer questions you might have. As far as both of you well said, everyone stay safe out there, take care of each other. Think about, how we can all benefit and provide a benefit to each other in these kind of trying times. And I think we'll all get through it together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said for you as well. Well, folks, and you can also look at the Franchise Bible Coach website, learn more about the Fight for Your Franchise Challenge, find the resources, join the fight, and let's have you as part of our system for keeping people moving forward. And Geoff, hopefully we'll be in touch with you again and get a follow-up on how things are going. And you can learn more about their franchise from that web address he gave you, or you can go to the Franchise Bible Coach website, and their logo will be on our Hall of Fame, where you can click through right to their franchise page. So, Rob, you want to thank our sponsors, and we'll tie it up for today.
Yeah. Thanks again to SEO Samba, SEOsamba.com. They are the inventors of the franchise marketing operating system. So we just want to thank them for sponsoring today's show. And that's about it for today. Thanks to all our listeners, and bye for now.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Geoff.